Well, runners, welcome to 2025. You're at Mr. Rubio Used to Run. That's where we're at, the Running Warehouse podcast. I'm Mr. Rubio, one of your hosts, and my co-host is Connor Blaylock right here. Welcome.
And Joe.
Yes.
2025 is here. I don't think we thought it was going to come. It was a big 2024.
It's a big 2024 and it's a big 2025. We have several world championships coming up later this year.
Right.
We have the World Championships in September for track and field. And when that concludes, I think September 18th in Tokyo, 1 week later in San Diego is a World Road Championships.
Yep.
And I believe that's going to be a road mile on Friday, 5K on Saturday, and a half marathon on Sunday. And although technically in January of 26, it's pretty close. It's 1 year from this coming weekend is the World Cross Country Championships on Saturday, January 10th, 2026. And the day following, which is going to be kind of cool, is the USATF Club Cross Country Championships on the same course in Tallahassee. Yeah. Tallahassee is an awesome course. It's really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you guys have ran that quite a bit. And we've got a loaded 2026 ahead of us. A loaded 2025.
Right.
I'm getting ahead of myself now. Yeah. But 2024, we had a lot go down. We had a lot of good shoes.
We got a lot of good shoes, and we'll go over some of those today.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of our favorites.
Right.
And we're not going to say there's a best shoe because there isn't a best shoe. We're just going to go down categories, talk about shoes that we liked particularly.
Right.
Yeah. So, but first off, we're in a little bit of mourning because one of the great humans in American history, Jimmy Carter, passed away recently. They have his memorial service this week in Georgia. Mm-hmm. And, the guy was married for 73 years, I want to say, to his wife, Rosalind. Very well known for a couple things, but in particular, Habitat for Humanity, which, I don't know, helped build thousands of houses. But probably one of his most influential contributions to mankind, particularly in America. I guess it really applies to America. It doesn't apply to Canada or Mexico or anything like that. But in 1978, Jimmy Carter signed legislation that made it legal to brew beer in your house, beer and wine. Now, everyone laughs and says, we've always had the ability to, no, in Prohibition, they outlawed it. And it wasn't until 1978 that you were able to legally brew beer at your house. And so that started a whole industry.
Now, this would have been around the time that you were approaching college era. Were you guys home brewing at all with some of the runners?
Well, no, but back in the 80s is when I graduated from Cal Poly. Yeah. And you had a thing called the senior project, which everyone still has to do this day. Yeah. So it's a unique project. It's either a study or, I don't know, a research paper or something like that. And mine in 1986 through 87 was on opening a brew pub in San Luis Obispo. Now, the significance of that was at the time there was only one brew pub in all of California. Wow. And that was in Hopland. So think about that. How many brew pubs are there in San Luis Obispo? But we're talking about the whole state of California. There was one. And so that was my senior project. And a couple of local businessmen used my senior project, or they were reading it. But one by the name of Mike Hoffman started Slow Brew, which is still in business today. And if you look at that Slow Brew, it says established 1988. Wow. And that's my senior project. I didn't actually open it because I didn't have any money. You need money to make money, but I didn't have any money, so I was just broke and drinking his beer. So, but anyways, that's one of the most significant things that Jimmy Carter did.
Okay.
Yeah, there you have it.
And Jimmy Carter also around the time of the 1980 Olympic trials, so he did have a factor in a lot of track athletes' world.
He was not on anyone's really nice list. He boycotted the 80 Olympics, was in my opinion, a big mistake.
Right. A lot of really great athletes missed that and really never got another chance to compete again.
There was a lot, and they actually had in Olympic trials that said the road to nowhere was all the shirts and everything like that.
Yeah.
People
trials and tribulations.
Yeah. The thing is boycotts have never worked. And then in '84, we had a fantastic Olympics. Oh, by the way, all the Eastern Bloc countries weren't there because they returned the favor and boycotted our Olympics. But anyways, this being the time of the year, the start of the year, any New Year's resolutions on your end?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's not anything super, I'm not heavy, like I need to hit this time or this, run this fast. But I think the main goal is to continue on this these building blocks that I've been setting for the past year. So now we're back training hard. We've ran a lot of good races. So I think if anything, like, let's continue to keep the racing going and maybe get back on the track again. I haven't been on the track for...
Ooh, that's crazy talk.
That might be 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
So I think track, and if I'm going to go even crazier, maybe a track PR in the 5K.
Which would be great. I mean, the thing is challenging yourself with different things is always a good thing. You know, people get locked in, they just do their marathons or whatever, and that's all they do.
Exactly.
But there's something you said about doing stuff like having a marathoner do a 1,500 or something like that, a mile on a track, and something completely out of your comfort zone.
Right. And then if you switch up a little bit, a lot of times that can help the other distances.
And sometimes you find a distance that, I mean, I've had athletes that were long distance runners that turned into milers and were pretty good at it.
Really?
Actually, they're better at milers than they were half marathons and stuff like that. But,
wow.
But you don't find that out until you go racing.
Right.
Yeah. So,
how about you?
Well, one thing that, we'll bring this up. There was a thing on Let's Run recently.
Okay.
And this guy, Real Kellen Olmsted 4, wrote, "At what age or decade of life do you think your physical capabilities will fall off most sharply?" And I guess this kind of applies to me. I'm going to be 62 this year, so kind of fall into this thing. Although he writes, "As I approach my 40s, I don't feel like I will lose much sharpness. I'm guessing it will get scary around 50 and 60 as your body starts undergoing the more irreversible changes, especially with diminished testosterone, making it harder to lose weight and put on muscle." So before reading this is something that was going through my mind last year. And you're just going, okay, well, you start, one of the things I've mentioned before is when you start out as an athlete, like in elementary school and junior high, as a coach, you tend to have that athlete focus on the ABCs, which is agility, balance, coordination, speed, and strength. And in my mind, it's kind of like when you're a little kid, you have help eating, you get help walking, you get help getting dressed.
Right.
As you get on in life, the same thing happens. It's just later in life. So that's their bookend. So to make sure that the thing goes somewhat smoothly for me, I just can't show up at 80. Well, put this in context. My dad still lifts weights and gets on the exercise bike, and he's 95. So if I'm going to get to that age and do some of that stuff, I need to start working on this agility, balance, coordination, and speed. Right. So this kind of sounds stupid, but I thought, okay, I'm going to do pickleball because we have a pickleball court here at some point this spring. The thing is that I was watching golf, and Bernard Langer won this golf tournament, the father-son or parent-kid thing, and he had just gotten done with Achilles tendon surgery, and he ripped his Achilles playing pickleball. So I said, I don't want to do that. So I started doing stuff like drills, light drills, started doing weights, started, just doing all the little things, stretching actually.
Right.
Now my back feels surprisingly better. And things like that. So that's my personal thing, is just being more consistent with, for, I don't know, decades, all I did was go in one direction.
Right.
And so now I'm trying to do multiple directions, actually lift weights a little bit, do some sit-ups, push-ups, all those kind of things.
Yep. And those building blocks might help you get onto the pickleball court one day.
Well, that's what I'm hoping, is I can get on there and go with Boone and not, he's a resident pickleball expert, and not rip anything.
Right.
So, and watching the diet and stuff like that. Okay. Nothing crazy. It's all in moderation.
Are we going to see you out on the roads at all for a race this year?
I actually ran this morning and felt good. Not as good as you go, I think I want to race. Yeah. But going back to this gentleman's thing, when you get to be 60, most of the time runs don't feel good.
Right.
It just doesn't feel good. And so I'm going 3 or 4 days a week. Sunday, I went an hour.
Yep.
Not all running. A lot of it was hiking and stuff like that on this beautiful trail, Coon Creek Trail, which you've done.
Right.
So it was, it's something.
And we've seen athletes, I mean, especially in the past 5-7 years, really prolong their careers. Some really fantastic performances approaching 40 years old. Kipchoge, I mean, has done things that we never thought possible at that age. If he even is that age, I mean, a lot of people thought he might even be older than he is. So where do you think is that line of you can no longer compete at an elite level these days? Because it seems like Kipchoge might be getting close, but again, he is so much older than what an old elite, or an elite runner used to be able to do.
Yeah, I think the thing is, it depends on what you define as really competitive.
Yeah.
Because there were guys that I trained with back when I just got out of Cal Poly here.
Yeah.
And when they got in their 50s, they never got any slower. They just kept training. So they weren't very good back in the 80s.
Right.
But they never got slower. And now they just kill everyone.
Huh.
So they never get any faster, but it's all relative.
Right.
Right. That's just the way it is. And so I'll never run as fast as I did, but it seems to affect women less so than men.
Interesting.
Yes. And so you can have someone like Linda Summers, who's locally, and at over 50, she ran 16:09 for 5K on the roads.
Wow.
Which is, I don't know many 50-year-old guys that can do that.
No.
So it just depends on what you want to do. But I would say 40 is when you start seeing declines.
Okay.
In particular in men.
Yeah.
Usually your third year, you feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Like you just show up and you're in, I don't know, you're not even training that much and I can do 16 flat. But then you get in the 50s and that's not the way it is anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You get a VO2 min, it goes the other way. Stuff like that. So, but for 2025, some of the things that is helpful is just giving people little tips here and there.
Right.
So that's one of the things that I thought I'd do. Not that I know everything, but I do have a couple different tips that might help people in listener land.
Because you've learned quite a bit over the years.
I've made a lot of mistakes.
Right.
More than you. Probably significantly more. But probably the first one is the rule of 3.
Okay.
And I don't know where this came from, and I don't know how I know it, but I know it, which means at any point in your adult life, you can do 3 major things at any one point. So if you have a career, that's number 1. If you have family, friends, or significant other, that's number 2. Then you have to pick a number 3. So it could be coaching. It could be competitive running. It could be any number of things. But it needs to be 3 things. So as an example, my daughter is at Oregon State right now and running at Oregon State. When she just started cross country, 9th grade. And at the time she was running cross country and going to school, and she had friends, and I believe she had a part-time job, and she was in FFA, and she was in 4-H. And I talked to her mother, and I said, I think she has too much on her plate. What's the plan? And the plan became, we're going to let her fail. And she failed. She went down in flames. And then she made the realization, I talked to her afterwards, I said, you need to just pick 3 things that you want to do. So she picked running, she picked school, and she picked her friends and family. So that's cool. Now, fast forward to now, I just had lunch with her the other day, and she's finishing up at Oregon State, her bachelor's degree, and then she's going to go get her master's degree. Well, she has 1 year left of eligibility, and she's going to forego that year of eligibility to focus on student teaching because she has classes, student teaching, and I believe she has a job. But anyways, she's got 3 things in her head, and that's kind of ingrained in there. And so that's one of those things. So we have athletes that are just out of college, moved to San Luis Obispo to train, and in many cases, they will have a job or career. They will be doing have a couple different jobs, have friends, and then they want to coach at the high school, or they want to coach at Cal Poly, or they want to coach at Cuesta. And they ask my opinion, and I say, it's too much. You have too much on your plate, particularly if you're coaching at Cuesta, because I did it, and I try to do all this stuff. At Cuesta, you don't have any home meets, and the closest team that you race is Santa Barbara, and that's 2-hour drive away. Everyone else is 4 hours away in a bus. So you do that once a week during track season. You hop on a bus first thing in the morning, get home at night. You don't run. You eat a salami sandwich on the track. You sit in the sun all day. Just beats you up. So 4 and 5 things are generally too much. But if you want to be successful, competitive running, 3 is it.
Yeah, I think we've all been there before. I've been there where you just get going, doing too many things at once. And you're right. It never works, and you end up just failing at all of them. And you look back, and it seems so simple looking back. But, man, you got to focus on 3. Sometimes you can get away with it for a little bit, but it's
that
tough.
fear of missing out. It's
Right.
like, I want to do all this stuff. Yes, I get it. But you know, at some point you need to focus on the 3 things that really matter to you,
Right.
and go for that, and just say, look, at coaching, I'll do later.
Yeah.
It's always going to be there.
Right.
Right. So,
Yeah.
But anyways, on to what we came here for.
Okay.
What the listeners are excited about. Our best
Yes.
of 2024.
This is Joe and Connor's, not any brand who is.
And for those shaking their head and going, we got paid to talk about these shoes. No, we didn't get paid.
No.
Not at all. In fact, we're probably going to lose favors with a lot of brands for what we have to say about shoes. But all this is going to be just positive stuff. We're not going to talk, we could come with something next time about the worst of 2024.
Ooh, that would be a hot take.
But we're not going to do that at this point. So let's just go in categories.
Right.
Like different categories of shoes.
Because a couple episodes ago, we did go into all the different brands and all the shoes and why we like and don't like. Today, it's really just pinpointing the best in each category.
Yeah, and it could be one shoe. It could be a bunch of shoes.
Right.
Because certain categories just have a ton of shoes.
Right.
And one of the things that we're going to try to do is say, if you're this type of a runner, this would be a good shoe for you.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm going to diss on a lot of the influencers that I look at all the time is they view the best of from one perspective, their perspective.
Right.
And so if they're 120 pounds and they're getting ready for a half marathon and 5Ks and 10Ks, they're doing track workouts, they're doing all kinds of stuff, and they'll say an everyday training shoe is going to be like a racing shoe for somebody else because they're light. They don't need a lot of support. They don't need anything, but they call this an everyday running shoe. Well, for very few people is that an appropriate everyday running shoe.
Right.
So we'll do our best to kind of define things a little bit for you.
Okay.
But the first category, we'll start at the top of the pyramid, which is super shoes, racing shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And what do you have?
Okay. So, I mean, are we going to start with the elite level?
Well, that's what I thought. I thought, there's different levels. And
Okay.
when, in my mind, elite is like people that are qualifying for the Olympic trials or faster.
Okay.
And these are people that aren't going to be on their feet racing at a high level for more than 230, 245 at the most.
Okay. Okay.
So it's somebody that's going to tend to be lighter, more efficient, faster, more midfoot, all those types of things. So they're not out there for 4 or 5 hours.
Right.
So they don't need as much support.
Right.
And they really need something that's going to push them forward.
Yeah. And because it's this elite level, they really are pushing the highest level technology, the newest foams, the newest everything. They tend to be the highest price point items in the market of any shoe. And it's starting to get better. I've tested every super shoe, and I will say now in the past year, the playing field between super shoes,
It's getting closer.
It's getting a lot closer. And I thought we weren't really going to get much further. And I think we have a couple options that have just gotten past that line of where it's been the last couple of years.
Yep.
So the shoe I'll give is, I've talked about it quite a bit. It was the shoe I wore in both of my halves this year, was the Adidas Adizero Adios Pro Evo 1. That's always one that is a little bit of a mouthful.
Yeah.
But look, it's the lightest shoe on the market. Maybe there was one or two others that I saw that got close or maybe were just a little bit under. But for the stack, for the responsiveness, it's the lightest, bounciest shoe. It's a game changer. And I think it really puts a lot of brands in a space where they realize that they got to take it up a notch. So that's going to be my number one shoe. It's the shoe I chose. But at the same time, it's a $500 shoe.
Yeah, and the other thing too is when you're wearing that shoe, there's only one thing you care about, and that's going fast.
Exactly.
You're not caring about getting fatigued. You're not caring about anything because you're not out there for, like I said, 4 or 5 hours.
Right.
And for a 4 or 5 hour marathoner, this is not going to be the shoe for you.
It's not. It's not going to be nearly as stable as some of the other shoes.
Right.
It's built to be as light as possible. The upper, I'm always worried I might rip out of it. And I know Adidas gave some general recommendations on how many marathons you should use it for. It's not many, but I will say I think you can get at least 100, 150, 200 miles out of the shoes. I've gotten now close to 40 miles. I haven't noticed much of a degradation of the midsole, but I wouldn't be surprised if at around 100 miles, you start seeing some small performance benefits. But I know people who have ran 150 in it and it's still going strong. You always got to be careful with shoes that are this minimally built, but a really cool shoe and one that's pushing forward. The one other one I'll give was the Endorphin Elite 2. Not a shoe that came out in 2024 officially. It only came out in real small batches. So I didn't want to maybe include this in today's. We've got it, down on the end. But, this is a shoe that will be in full mass market very soon. I believe March 1st.
That's a really cool shoe.
I mean, look, I don't need to talk about this anymore because of how much I've discussed this midsole, but it's a game changer, TPEE, super new application, and this is another one that just keeps pushing forward. So if you're looking for like the highest end, most elite shoes, best technology, Evo and Elite 2, I think are going to be the big ones. Yeah. Was there anything else I missed?
I think the Alpha Fly 3, it's a very, very good shoe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nike still has it. And I haven't talked to anyone that doesn't think that shoe is fantastic.
And that's the thing. We can I feel like we're ruling out Nike a little bit more recently, or maybe just not talking about it as much because they've been the main talking point for years and years, and now there's other people in the competition. Yes, their ZoomX foam hasn't maybe revolutionized crazy, but it's still a fantastic shoe. It's still one of the best weight to cushioning ratios on the market. And it's been proven, like it's used in every treadmill test from brands that are comparing their products to Nike.
Yeah.
And the Alpha Fly, year after year, we're told by every brand that it's always right up there with.
Yeah, it's the benchmark.
It's the benchmark.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's a fantastic shoe.
So yeah.
We also have a category I just call normal humans. It's not normal humans. It's going to be somebody. It could be an elite level. Marathoner type.
Right.
But it's also someone that's going to go maybe 3 hours, maybe 3.5 hours.
Yep.
That's not a lot of humans, but these racing flats are fantastic. They just offer a little bit more there.
Yes.
Yes.
Little bit better price points,
right.
A little bit more durability, a little bit more stability, a little bit more democratic of a shoe.
Yeah, but they're still fantastic shoes.
Right. You're not really losing any performance benefits.
Right.
Too much.
Asics, Metaspeed, Sky, Paris.
Okay.
And I'm not going to go into the details of which one to choose, but that's a fantastic shoe.
Because there's the Sky and the Edge.
Yeah.
Both. I mean, I ran in both.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I ran in both this past year. And in the past, the Sky was always my shoe. It always felt like a little bit more cushion to me. It felt a little bit more bouncy with my stride. But now the Edge, they've done something different with the geometries. I like how they've worked the foam with the newest iteration. And now it's funny, I use them almost half and half. They both have very distinct underfoot feels, but I think the Flight Foam Turbo Plus compound that they added in that shoe just made it.
And the weight on it is it's super light.
And that's coming from the new foam.
Yeah, it's coming from new foam. And the other thing that, people haven't seen this yet, but the flat set Asics has, the super shoes they have in the fall are off the rails. They're so good. So good. They have 3 models coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. The other one I put in this category is the Adios Pro 4.
Right.
A lot of the same technology that's in the Evo Pro 1, more affordable, a little bit more stable, but still a fantastic shoe. Yeah. Still light.
Yep. It also got the foam upgrade this year from where the 3 was, so I felt it was a little bit softer, a little bit bouncier. Yeah, side by side, I ran in both of them in a workout. Yes, the Evo is a little bit lighter. It does have that little bit of an advantage, but for half the price, the Pro 4...
It's a very good shoe.
Yeah, it's right up there as the best in the super shoes.
And then you start looking at stuff in the 4 to 5 hour zone, and,
which isn't talked about very often.
No, and I think one of the better shoes, and this was actually designed for someone, I think, 330 and above.
Yes.
The Solomon S-Lab Spectre.
Yes.
And it is not... it's a fantastic shoe. It's just not like an Evo 1. But it's still, if you're going to be out there for that length of time and you're looking for some assistance with some added stability, it's a very good shoe.
It's got a good amount of super foam in it that gives it that bounce, but I think what you got right there was the stability. It's probably one of the most stable, and like you feel like you're on the platform really well in this shoe over any super shoe on the market.
Yeah.
A lot of slower runners are going to feel the efficiency benefits, but aren't going to have those ankles wobbling in. Or
it's hard to explain when we talk about stability and the benefits of in a marathon. It's when your feet are collapsing in and not getting the lateral stability that causes fatigue. You just get more tired.
Yes.
And so the added stability actually decreases the fatigue. Not to any significant effect, but when you start feeling it, it comes on like a freight train.
And I'm sure we'll have some people listening to this podcast say, well, I'm a 4-hour marathoner and I love the Alpha Fly. And I don't think that you can't wear a super shoe if you're a 4-hour marathoner, but you're going to be subjecting yourself to more injuries with some of these more elite level shoes. And just because a shoe is lighter, yes, it can help with inefficiencies, but it's only lightness is only one piece of the puzzle.
It is.
If you're more efficient in your stability and your gait is more natural, then you might get that efficiency benefits on the other side of things.
Right. And I think this might be where super shoes are going and anything with a plate. But I keep going back to golf, but golf has different shaft stiffnesses.
Yeah.
You have extra stiff, you have stiff, you have regular, you have senior, those types of things based on your swing speed.
Right.
So I can see in the future where based on your marathon speed, your speed that you're racing has different biomechanics characteristics than if you're running fast. It just you just do. And so if you can mimic or complement your stride turnover, your stride, the pressure you apply to the ground with the appropriate plate, it should work better for you.
Right.
And so that's what we're trying to get at here is like that S-Lab Spectre. The other one I put in that category is a SE Elite 4.
Yep, exactly.
From New Balance.
I would say that is one, if you're looking for one of the fastest shoes for that 4-hour marathon. I mean, it is fat. It has everything you need for a super shoe, the weight, the bounce, but it is such a stable feeling shoe. And I think that was the only critique some of our higher end testers had, was that they just felt maybe it was a little bit too much on the performance training side. But it's still a really beneficial shoe. So yeah, I think that's something that New Balance, if they wanted to go maybe a little bit more elite route, have a shoe that's like that top tier pinnacle performance, and keep that SC Elite as that more democratic shoe that anyone could wear.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other category of shoes that would work in this is the next one we'll talk about is performance trainers.
Right.
And so when I'm talking about performance trainers, these are shoes that kind of bridge the gap between super shoes and another category we call super trainers. But basically, they're designed to go fast so you can do workouts. So they'll have foam. In most cases, they'll have a plate, but they'll be more padded. They'll be more comfortable. They'll be more stable. They will be heavier.
Right.
They'll have more durability, and they will not be as fast as super shoes, but they'll be faster than most of the other shoes out there.
Yeah, they're not going to be as aggressive. They maybe aren't going to be opening you up to quite as many injuries as some of these really stiff carbon-plated shoes. But I feel like in the last year and a half, where we saw everyone wearing Vaporflies or Adios Pros in their workouts, their true race day super shoe for workout day, I'm seeing a lot more runners save the super shoes for maybe a couple
special
key
day
workouts, and they'll use the performance trainers, these performance super shoes, or performance super trainers as their workout day shoe.
Yeah, and some of the ones that I like, Adidas is really knocking out of the park in here. Yeah, one that doesn't quite make the list, but it's still good, is the Boston 12. But the SL2, probably one of the best values in the market. What is it, $120, $130?
Yeah,
it's fantastic. And I think the only thing it lacks versus like the Evo SL, which also came out, and that's on the list, is the SL2 doesn't have the Continental rubber outsole. Yeah. But still a fantastic shoe.
Yeah, the SL2 is, I think what you got there was the value. At $130,
it's unbeatable.
I mean, it's really, really good. But at the same time, once the Evo SL came out at $150, yes, it is a decent price point, but the value and the amount of tech that's packed into the Evo SL, it's a game changer on the market, and it's my top performance shoe in this category.
It's great.
It has everything: the weight, the bounce, the technology, that little bit of midfoot shank for stiffness. It's a perfect shoe, and everyone that I've talked with who've ran in this shoe have just absolutely loved it. I think it came in right at the end of 2024, so I think a lot of people still haven't been able to fully adopt it into their cycle.
But it's a fantastic shoe.
Amazing.
Probably the biggest surprise for me, at least in this category, Nike Zoom Fly 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, when we saw it like 6 months ago or whatever, a year ago, it was an ounce heavier. We said there's no way it's going to get killed by the competition. And yes, it's a little bit pricey. It was a 160, something like that. But it is a fantastic shoe. I mean, everyone loves this shoe. It's very good.
Yeah. So Zoom Fly coming in 170.
170.
But it's right up there with a lot of its competition. And now it finally makes sense because it's within the range from a spec perspective, a tech perspective, and it feels good. When I think of the original Zoom Fly that came out with that original Vaporfly 4%, that shoe made sense in the line. They both... You had the
complemented. You had the racing thing and you had the training complement. And that's what you have here with the Alpha Fly and the Zoom Fly.
And we've been asking for this for years. And every year Nike has found a way to, I don't know if they were trying to separate the two too much and make the Vaporfly too good. And the Zoom Fly just always had this feel of lower quality or just not quite to where it needed to be.
And now it is.
It's there now.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
Another shoe in this category that's probably one of the best values.
Okay.
It lacks a plate, but it is fantastic, is the New Balance Rebel 4.
Yes.
It's $140. What is it, People Blend?
People Blend. And this is probably one of my top picks in this category because of how versatile it is. Yes, I like these shoes that don't have the plates. The Rebel has been great year after year after year. It's changed a little bit, but V4... I mean, it's right up there with, it can basically bring it out any day and you can use it and it'll perform really well.
Yeah, and I see it on a lot of lists as the best daily trainer. And I think if you're running 6 or 7 days a week and you're running an hour or more a day and you're running intervals and you're running this and you don't weigh much and you smaller stature and so forth, or you can run every day. But if you're running like me 3 days a week, and you're running half an hour to an hour and you're just plodding along, it's not a great shoe for that. For a high school kid running cross country all day long.
Yeah. I mean, again, with all these, it's really going to come down to what you're looking for. It's a bouncy, cushioned, soft shoe. Is it going to be everyone's daily trainer? Absolutely not. No. But yes, for the person looking for that style of shoe, and like you said, it's a very efficient runner, easily could be a top daily trainer.
Another one, I'm probably the granddaddy of them all in this category is the Endorphin Speed 4 from Saucony. I mean, it's just a slam dunk.
Year after year.
You don't have to think about it. I mean, it just is.
Yeah.
It's a great shoe.
I mean, they were the only shoe from the beginning that used full length, true super foam. I mean, look how many years it's taken most of these brands, and still a lot of them don't have that true full length super foam. The same super foam that's in their racing shoe. The Speed 4, why I like it is the plate in it. You know, you've got the nylon plate, so you get a little bit of that torsional rigidity. They haven't really changed the formula too much over the years because it works. And it works for everything. Workout day, long runs. Some people might race in it. It's just a good design, and there's a reason why Saucony stayed pretty true to it over the years.
Yeah, and I think they veered a little bit in the 3 where they tried to make it more comfort. You know, there's a scale.
Yeah.
And it's called the Speed for a reason.
Right.
And so you're not buying it because you want a super plush, comfortable upper. That's a different category of shoe. This one, you want to go fast.
True.
If you want to go fast, it has the ability to go fast. And the next shoe that's on here, I don't think a lot of people have tried, but
I'd recommend it.
It's a fantastic shoe. The Puma Deviate Nitro 3.
Yeah.
The 2 was good. The 3 is good. They're just small tweaks.
Yeah.
If you can get a 2 on sale, you're going to be happy with it. But it is a really, really good shoe. Puma's got some fantastic stuff that people should try.
Yeah, I always put this shoe side by side with the Speed 4 with people who tell me they like the Speed, but say maybe they want something that lies a little bit more on the daily training side. I think the Deviate is the perfect shoe. You still get that bounce and efficiency of what you might feel in a Speed 4, but it's a little bit more comfortable. I think it's a super smooth ride. You get that nitro foam, the Nitro Elite, and it's a shoe that I think is not on many people's radars who maybe haven't tried Puma, but if you're going to start with one shoe from Puma,
would be it.
That's the one I'd say.
It's a fantastic shoe. Our next category is something that's starting to get on people's radar. It's called, we're calling it super trainers.
Yeah.
So basically, these shoes are designed to make running farther easier.
Yeah.
Not necessarily faster in all cases, but if you want to pick up the pace, you can.
Yeah.
So the kind of thing is, if you're going on your long Sunday run, 2 hours, and you just want something with more protection, more bounce, and in some cases, if you want to pick up the pace, it'll allow you to do that. That's the Super Trainers.
And they've got the latest technology in foam compounds.
They have plates in some cases.
A lot of times they have plates or something to help stabilize these super low durometer foams. And because of the increased technology in these shoes, similar to their true super foam counterparts, they are going to be a little bit more expensive than your standard trainers.
Yeah, and the thing about, they tend to have higher stacks.
Yep.
They're more protected, wider bases, more stable. So yes, more appropriate for a wider audience than a performance trainer for long runs and stuff like that.
Right.
For someone that's a normal, a guy that's 180.
Yeah.
Can wear one of these super trainers and be fine.
Yeah, pretty much anyone could go out in a super trainer and run in it.
Yeah.
And you're just going to get that extra benefit, that extra luxury, and that extra efficiency that you would get over a standard trainer.
Yeah, and most of these are designed to give you the ability to go faster if you want.
If you want to.
If you want to. And we'll start with probably the one that's getting the most accolades right now that you can't find anywhere. I don't know. I don't think ASICS is not making these because they don't want to sell them.
No.
They just didn't anticipate the demand. And I know they didn't make enough Super Blast 1, and they increased the production of this model too, but the ASICS Super Blast 2 is a fantastic shoe.
Yeah, the Super Blast 2, I don't think anyone realized how big this shoe was going to be originally, and they keep just bumping up the numbers more and more, thinking it's going to be enough, and it never is.
It's not.
It's gotten such a good reputation because its weight, its stack, its ride, everything about this shoe is just
spot on.
Spot on, and you can use it, again, for anything. I haven't found a run that I can't use the Super Blast 2 for, other than maybe a trail run, but anything on the roads, I mean, this thing just destroys it.
It's really good. And the thing with ASICS is the build quality, the quality materials, and the fit. The cool thing about ASICS is I have ASICS golf shoes. I've tried it on their tennis shoes and their running shoes, and they all fit the same. They're the only brand you can say that about, that it doesn't matter. So you get the same fit. So if you have the ASICS tennis shoes, you say, I want to get a pair of running shoes, get the ASICS running shoes if you like the way the tennis shoes fit.
Right.
I don't know why other brands can't get that, but they can't. But the Super Blast is a great looking shoe.
Right.
Super comfortable. Mm-hmm. It's just a great shoe. Right. It's one of the few that doesn't have a plate.
Right.
But regardless, it's still. Do we have one here?
We don't, but we do have. We've got an SC Trainer
V3. Yes, that's the next one.
Okay, so SC Trainer V3.
Right.
What do you think about this one? Because I feel like this is a shoe that it's changed a little bit over the iterations, but this newest version, at least in my mind, is my favorite.
It's a great shoe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got the PIBA blend, we've got the carbon plate, a lot of stack. I think the problem with the SC Trainer that I had over the years, especially earlier on, was I always had a problem finding where it was going to fit in my rotation. Mm-hmm. I think over the years, I've started to really find really niche uses for shoes. But I think the V3 now with the upgraded foam, it's now lighter than it used to be. It's not nearly as high of stack, but it's still pretty high. It's made its rotation for me as like that long run shoe.
Right.
Sometimes like for daily runs where I pick it up just a little bit, but not much. It's more of like a strong, easy run day, but you just feel effortless running in this shoe.
It's a great shoe. One that I think it probably would have sold better if the marketing department at Hoka had actually sold it the way it was. Right. They sold it as a racing flat. It's not a racing flat.
Yeah.
As a super trainer, it's great.
Yep.
It is a fantastic shoe.
Yeah.
As a racing shoe, it's too heavy.
What do we got, Joe?
Oh, I'm sorry. Cielo X1. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And, I remember this shoe because we did a lot of it leading into the Olympic trials. We were working with the NOS team. We were training a lot with the Aggies, who we had several Aggies running in it. And a lot of athletes got this shoe before and they loved it. They were using it for some easy days. They were using it for some long runs. Everyone really enjoyed the shoe But come race day, other than maybe one athlete I knew, everyone wore the Rocket X. And I think it just goes to show that it was just the wrong, marketing description for the shoe. But, it continued to be a really big shoe in a lot of these athletes' arsenal, just not for race day.
Yeah, and it is a great shoe. If you run it, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just not a racing shoe.
Right.
Yeah.
That will change in 2025.
Yeah.
We've got some big things coming with the CLOX. But for now, a super trainer. That's what we'll classify it as.
Classify it. And the other one that was introduced this year
Yes.
is the Mach X1.
2.
Oh, 2. I'm sorry. The Mach X2. So the thing is we can't recommend it because it destroyed too many people's ankles with the heel collar on it.
Right.
And we can't recommend a shoe that cuts people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But if it didn't cut you, it's a great shoe, and that's going to be solved in 25.
Yeah, and that was a huge bummer for me and the team, because everyone who got the shoe loved the shoe. The underfoot fill,
great shoe.
Bouncy, light, smooth. It took a lot of the really good, took a lot of the good perspectives and attributes of version 1, modified it, made it better, got the better foam compound. Everything about the shoe was perfect except for that upper fit. And every one of our testers found a way to
cut it out or do something.
Cut it out, put some tape on. And a lot of people found a way to make it work, and it still fits in their rotation, but just needs some small tweaks. It'll be
fine in
fixed.
25.
Yeah.
A couple of the models that lend itself more towards if you don't pick up the pace.
Okay.
And you want a super shoe.
Yep.
Probably the best. And this isn't exactly it, but
so not
Mizuno Neo Vista. This is the Neo Zen, but it looks really similar.
Right.
Really similar.
We'll get into the Vista or the Zen a little bit later.
But basically a shoe that looks similar to this. It is springy. It's soft. It's just not designed to go fast.
And it's got a plate. A lot of people think plate fast. Not necessarily.
That's not the case. So you might be able to pick up the pace, but that's not the reason you have it. You look at it, you go, I want to go run in this shoe, because it really is it's fun.
And another one on that same ballpark, the Skyward X.
Yeah, that's a fantastic shoe.
Yeah, when we saw this shoe, I remember the first time
we saw a prototype.
We saw a prototype. We didn't know what it was.
Did we see it at the trials?
It was, I don't know. It was around that time,
right?
But we didn't know what it was. We didn't know what its purpose was. They just said run in it, and I think a lot of people were just blown away by the feel. But everyone thought it was a super shoe at first, and then once you started running in it, you're like, not fast enough to be a true racer. But they kept bringing it out for runs, and I think it really started to show people what you could do with super foams and making running easier rather than faster.
Yeah, and that's this one and the Neo Vista are just really good shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if this continues on and where the Skyward goes, because I think there's definitely room for it. And I think that's really what the Bondi X could have been originally.
Right. I think this should be the Bondi X. I mean, that's what we kept saying. This should be the Bondi X, but I don't know, they get snake bit or something because the first one really wasn't that good.
Right.
But the initial Ghosts weren't that good either, but they kept with the name. Anyways, the next category is probably one of the most popular categories.
Yep. And
this is the max cushioning category.
Okay.
Which the emphasis is definitely not on going fast.
Right.
It is on total plush premium comfort.
Yep.
You're buying the shoe because you want something that is super comfortable. You're most likely walking in it, but you might jog in it.
Yep.
I use a pair to jog in.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to Chris Hartner at Naperville. He runs in it. It's just you don't always want to try to go fast. Sometimes you just want to plod, and you want something that's going to help that along. That's just soft and it's comfortable.
Right.
And that's what we have here. And probably the number one introduction for the year is the Glycerin Max.
Yeah.
The Cybertruck of running shoes.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that from Brooks this year.
No. And I think when we first saw it, I was a little hesitant because of the price point. But I was interested. And once you get it on your feet, you understand why it's Brooks's first shoe for me in a while that I will easily wear for daily training, long runs. It's just a comfortable shoe. And you're right, it's the Cybertruck. It has the look, it has the feel. It's just a fun shoe.
Yeah, and it really, Jim Weber, the old president at Brooks, who really brought the brand along and brought to where it is now.
Yeah.
He recently retired.
Yeah.
But I was at one of their conferences, and he said criticism of himself. This was him talking about himself.
Yeah.
Was that he wasn't really a risk taker. He was hesitant to do anything that might rock the boat. So up till recently, you could see that it was just small incremental changes. Yes, there were good changes, and they focused a lot on operations and stuff like that. So, and they made really comfortable shoes, stuff that people could rely on. And now you can see that with Dan Sheridan in charge and the president, he's taking a little bit more risks.
Yeah.
So we don't have it on the list, but like the Hyperion Elite, those types of things,
Yep.
New foams,
Yep.
and the Glycerin Max is part of that new philosophy where now you're starting to see some excitement.
Right.
And I think the same thing with Hoka is, we went through a period of time, the dark ages, where the foams weren't very good, right? They weren't keeping up. And now introduction of not just one foam, but multiple foams, like the Bondi 9 that's coming down the pipe. Now we have a modern foam in that shoe, which is worthy of that shoe,
right.
Bring it into the modern ages. But it's exciting to see Brooks and Hoka, stepping up their game.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic.
So the next shoe, it'll be my pick in this category.
Because you're the only person that has a pair in America.
And it's doing better.
Yeah.
We're trying to build hype, and I'm hoping New Balance continues forward with this shoe, but that's going to be the Ballos. It's that mix of almost like taking fresh foam and fuel cell and PIBA, putting it all together into this really fun, bouncy daily trainer, highly cushioned, very comfortable. And it came out a little bit lighter than I was expecting. So it even, I was able to pick it up some days, but that wasn't its main purpose. It's just a comfortable shoe. Long run day, it was my go-to.
Yeah. And, we're not trying to diss on any. This category has some really good shoes.
Yes.
New Balance 1080 V14.
Classic.
Really, a great shoe. The Nimbus 27.
Yep.
Triumph 22.
Yep.
They're all really good shoes.
Yep.
Super comfortable, super premium.
Yep.
If anybody's mom came in the store, I'd be happy to put any of these models on, offer them up.
Right.
And the fit differences are a little bit, they can be different between models, but all of them are really, really good shoes.
Right.
And they're definitely worth the price. I mean, if your goal is something that's going to be soft and comfortable and premium,
right,
these models fit the bill.
Right.
And everyone has a good one. The next category is your workhorse. Like if you look up running shoes in an old encyclopedia,
right,
you're going to have a picture of a daily trainer.
Right.
So these are the ones that have the tried and true technologies. They're reliable, dependable, but they don't have the most up-to-date, cutting-edge technologies. They have stuff that knows that works.
Right.
So like if I was going out and buying a truck, I wouldn't buy a new F-150 or new Chandra. I buy one a couple years old because I don't need the newest crap. Right. I just need stuff I know that works.
Right.
And that's this category. So they tend to be, the price is pretty good. Doesn't mean they don't have more updated foams and stuff like that, but the goal is just something that's going to get the job done. It's going to have quality materials. It's going to be dependable. And it's just going to be a good shoe.
And I think within this category, there's almost two silos. You've got what you've talked about is just that classic tried and true. Some of these shoes that have been around, franchises. And while maybe they've had some small upgrades in foams over the last couple of years, really what you're getting now isn't that much different, especially from a fit perspective, to what you got 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, these are going to be your Ghosts, your Adrenalines, your Cumulus, your 2000s, your 880s, 860s, those types of things.
Yeah. I'd say within this category, for me, my favorite is, I think this is a category that I don't wear as much because I do tend to lean higher cushion, higher,
rebound. And you don't worry about the price because you get all these things for free.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'd say within this, the Ride is probably the shoe that I've been wearing the most because I feel like they've really pushed the boundaries in the amount, like the foam compound and the stack underfoot. The ride would be my top pick. Do you have a favorite?
Well, I would think there's, two categories here. Some that if you want to go faster there, you can do that. And the ride is going to be, more on it's not hard or anything. It's just more on the firm side. So if you like a firmer shoe, this is going to be your jam, right? The ride is fantastic that way. But some of the other ones, if you're just looking at a shoe that you want to run or walk in and have it be comfortable, and again, no bells and whistles, but a very, very solid shoe, like the Clifton 9, the 880, the Ghost.
The Ghost got a huge foam upgrade this year. So that would be another one on my list of, it's the tried and true, but now you got that foam upgrade. But then you talked about another category.
Well, it's the same daily trainers, but something that can go a little bit faster.
Gotcha.
So like the Mach 6, upgraded foam.
Yep.
The Nova Blast 5.
Yeah.
In my head, that's the modern Cumulus.
Yes. I'm surprised the Cumulus is still around, because it seems like the Nova Blast is that shoe now. It's what everyone is wearing.
I think it is in run specialty. I think the Cumulus is going towards kind of like the, I don't have a good example right now, but some of the models that were really red hot back 10 years ago are now making their way, because they have older foams and stuff. They're going to the Dix channel, that sort of thing,
right?
Big box and things like that. And the other one that kind of falls into this is the Peg 41.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little bit on the faster side if you want it to be.
Right. And I would say that's a shoe that I've worn actually a good amount the past 6 months. And I stopped wearing the Pegasus probably 5 years ago. Why I like that shoe is it's one of the few shoes on the market right now that has a little bit lower of a stack. So for me, since I do wear so many higher cushion shoes, I like 1 day a week, maybe 2 days a week, to wear something a little bit lower, especially early on in the season. Maybe for a workout day, I might bring them out. They can easily pick up the pace. Yes, they don't have the cushion, the plushness, the stack of some of the other shoes in the category, but I think that's good sometimes to change things up a bit. So Peg 41 with the foam upgrade, some of the geometries and the ride make it my favorite Peg in probably 5 or 6 years.
And I mentioned, the strides that Brooks and Hoga made.
Yeah.
I put Nike in the same category for 25.
Yeah.
The models that they have coming out are just really nice.
Right.
They're back in the game.
Right.
Particularly their premium comfort cushion, max cushion shoes.
Yep.
They're just good. They look great. They lowered the price.
Yep.
We tried on prototypes or samples here, and everyone loved them.
Right.
They're just super, super comfortable. So that's great to see. Next category is trail. I think you and I agree that it's one that stood out head and shoulders above the rest of the field.
Yes. So there are a lot of really good trail shoes right now. So we don't need to go into every single brand, every single model, because there are so many different avenues on the trail, so many different niches. But there was one brand and one specific shoe that really innovated over the rest, and that's the Adidas Terex Speed Ultra.
Yeah, something along those lines.
The Terex Agravic Speed Ultra.
You got to spin around to show the Adidas logo. So
boom.
Ultimately, you can see where this is going. That Terex is going to go away, and it should just be the Adi Zero Trail.
Right, seriously.
Really.
This one is always a mouthful, but the Speed Ultra is high stack, super foam, special special rod system. It's like a plastic rod, so it has a little bit more flexibility. Everything about this shoe just feels really unique on the trail. Everyone wanted a super shoe. That super shoe feel you feel on the roads, onto the trails, and the Speed Ultra, you get that. Like, you feel the bounce as you go through your stride in this shoe. Adidas really just nailed it.
Yeah. And some of the things, when you think about super shoes on the road, they're designed to make you faster.
Yes.
And super shoes on the trail, similar, but it really assists on running uphill faster.
Yeah.
Right? It makes running uphill not super easier, but makes it so you can go at a higher rate of speed uphill.
Yeah.
And that's why you'd want a super shoe. You get the rods and so forth in there to offer not just propulsion, but also protection from rocks and so forth. But that's a great shoe.
Yeah, the only negative I've really heard from certain trail runners was it does have a very narrow
it's not for everyone.
base. So this is an elite level. So if you're not the most efficient trail runner,
but it's much like the high-end super shoes that we talked about earlier. They're not for everyone.
Right.
They're going to be for really elite trail runners that want to haul ass.
And it's proven. It's won Western States.
It's a great shoe. It's fantastic.
Okay.
In a category that's really not on anybody's radar, at least not on ours, is stability.
Yep.
And I would say the leader in that for me is the Kayano 31.
Yeah.
It's basically Nimbus with some unique geometries.
Yeah.
But it's a great shoe.
From a comfort standpoint, I would agree. That was actually the shoe I probably walked around in a pretty good chunk of this past year. The one other shoe I'll add on is Hurricane.
Oh, yeah.
It was a shoe that, I didn't really want to wear. I've never worn the Hurricane, but it's not technically classified, at least by Saucony, as a stability shoe. But it's a very stable shoe underfoot. Mm-hmm. And I ran in it the last couple months. I had a late start to running in it, and I was just blown away by the protectiveness. Very smooth, very, very inherently stable. It's a solid shoe. So I think that's another one. Again, stability space is kind of dying, and what we even classify as true stability today is debatable. But those two shoes, I think if you are a very severe overpronator, you'll have a very good experience in both.
One of the things that's actually pretty exciting is ASICS is putting some unique spins on stability come fall.
Okay.
So I mentioned this before. We might have to edit it out, but basically we're talking about a Nova Blast, a stability version of the Nova Blast that they'll call the 2000, which is just, so if you have the 2000, with a Nova Blast, stability Nova Blast. I don't know why the Nova Blast isn't the Cumulus, but whatever.
Yeah.
Regardless, that will be pretty exciting.
Yep.
And I know the doctors of running are talking about the lack of stability shoes and lack of stability shoes in the fast space.
Yep.
But you can see where this is going.
Yep.
I can see ASICS coming back with a DS trainer.
Yeah.
DS Blast trainer, something like that. A faster. Stability shoe.
Right.
I don't see why you wouldn't do that because there's really not a whole lot of choices. There isn't a choice there.
Yeah.
In the super shoe space. Value. What we mentioned these in passing, but just point out some of the shoes that you think are a particularly great value, and they're both in the same category.
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned the value of both of these earlier, but the Evo SL and the Rebel are the two that I think that stand out the most.
Yeah.
Both of them, when you look at the tech, the weight, the cushioning, the price point, they just check every bar, and they're so much better than the rest of the competition.
And the Rebel really caught, the Rebel 4 really caught New Balance off guard. Yeah. It was so popular that they're picking that to be one of their franchise models.
Yeah.
So they have a bunch of lifestyle colors coming out. They're making that just a shoe for any occasion. Which they should. It's a great shoe.
And Rebel's coming in at $140.
Yeah.
So again, $140 is almost the new starting point for basic daily trainers. And you're getting a super foam, you're getting high stack heights, real light performance upper.
And it's a good looking shoe.
Yeah, it could easily be another $15, $20, $25 more expensive, and I don't think people would bat an eye.
Yeah. And the last category we go over is just some of the great shoes you might consider that are completely off the radar.
Mm-hmm.
These are shoes that are great. Nobody's going to buy them, but they're great. They are.
A few people might buy them, but yes, they're not quite as high volume as a Rebel.
The first one is the one that basically did CPR on a brand. And that's the Mizuno Neo Vista. Brought it back to life. Okay. That's the Zen. But I mean, it's a great shoe. It's one of those shoes that everyone who runs in it likes it.
Right. Sorry, I was actually going to bring up the Zen as my great shoe off the radar.
Oh, do that
because I do like the Vista, and I feel like a lot of people have been talking about the Vista as, again, that like easy day shoe, that long run shoe. Why I like the Zen is because the weight, the lack of plate, so you get a little bit more, it almost feels a little bit more natural, and I find this to be the more versatile of the shoes. So while Zen, I feel like Vista's good for certain days, I feel like Zen, I can pretty much wear any day. I wore it for a warm-up, workout, cool down, and then the next day for a long run, and it does well at everything. And I think really the main reason I like this shoe is the foam. Mizuno has really bumped up their foam compound. So I think people will kind of go back and forth between the Vista and the Zen. The Zen is actually the favorite between.
If we're talking off the radar, then the Zen is more off the radar than anything.
Well, I mean, it was called the mystery shoe for the longest time. I know, and I think a lot of people.
The new one, it's got the polka dots on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, but I think because it has that crazy graphic on it,
yeah,
that people will buy it for no other reason than to discover that it's a fantastic shoe.
Right.
Another one that is, and I was really skeptical on this brand. Mount to Coast.
Yes.
The R1.
We all were skeptical.
Every time we get a new brand in, that's just what we do. We bring in brands and you try it on and you go, well, this is not it. But for a model, just very first one, it's a good shoe.
And very rarely can a brand come out with one shoe and it be a success because, a lot of times it takes a full line. It just takes time to really build that stature and that reputation. And Mount to Coast has come in hot with a really, really good shoe, really good performance, really good versatility. It's hard to nail one shoe, but they did a really good job.
They did a good job. And, they're really promoting the durability of the shoe.
We know people who have put in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
But the U.S. consumer hasn't really responded to durability.
Yeah.
But it's a good shoe. And the fact that they'll have it for longer is great for everyone except for us because we won't sell as many, but hey, it's a good shoe.
And that's the thing, you can't lead with durability as the selling point, but if you make a good shoe and it happens to be durable,
you're good.
You've got a winner, and that's what Mount to Coast did.
Another one that if people get a chance to try would be the Topo Spectre 2.
Yeah.
That is a great shoe.
Real good shoe. And they finally got the full length PIBA foam.
It's P-Backs.
Sorry, P-Backs powered. It's not even a PIBA base.
It's not even a PIBA base. It's P-Backs.
Yes. So a really great foam compound, really good ride. I think the first version, it had potential, but it never lived up to the hype.
This one is, and there's no frills, no bells and whistles. It's a nice shoe. It's a basic shoe other than the midsole.
Yes.
The midsole is crazy.
And a lot of people complain that they don't have a lot of options. If they've got a little bit wider of a forefoot, they want a little bit more anatomically I don't know.
They just want more
that rounded toe box.
And Topo has that. And here's a super trainer in this category that if you get a chance to try it, you will not be disappointed.
I don't think so. No.
And the other thing is the current Topos, the DNA, which means the design, they're good looking shoes.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think when we saw the fall 25 line, universally we considered the colors to be really, really solid.
Definitely.
Really good. Yeah. And I know a lot of people in listener land will go, that's BS, colors, who cares? It matters.
For sure.
I mean, if you can have a shoe, you might as well have it look good. You're not, anyway, I won't go there. But, and then the last shoe that I have in this category is the DV8 Nitro 3.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good shoe. Really good.
We already went into it a pretty good amount, but again, I think Puma across the board has came out with a lot of great shoes, and if you want to start with one, Nitro 3 is that versatile performance trainer that still has that cushioning and stability to do anything, but it's a fast shoe.
It's good. So that's what we have on that portion of the podcast.
Wow. We just went through every single category.
Well, we did and we didn't. I mean, we could go track and field and we could go cross country. We'll save that for another podcast down the road.
Okay.
But anyways, we'll close out with a couple other things that, because I got up at 6 this morning. We didn't have enough stuff to talk about at
Right.
on the podcast. So Connor found a thing on Let's Run that said, "How fast is too fast?" Do you want to read this?
Sure. And,
Okay.
and I'll preface this by we've been talking about this quite a bit,
Right.
because every week it seems like we wake up, we watch a race, and we see another time that we didn't think was possible. And they not only broke that time, but broke it by a minute, or in some cases, 5 minutes. So the quote was, the ratification on the 11th of December, 2024 of Ruth Cheptegeich's 2:09:56 marathon performance in Chicago on October 13th, which has been greeted with profound skepticism by leading athletics experts because it exceeds the limits of female human potential, is an embodiment and symbol of the abject failure of world athletics, the Athletics Integrity Unit, and the World Anti-Doping Agency to detect and control rampant doping in international athletics. And that was from
Peter Erickson.
Yeah.
So, me being who I am, I decided to take a look at, I have this book right here, Running Tracks, Dr. Purdy, I've mentioned this before, Stanford computer science professor and professor of human physiology, and combined the two and did all these charts and everything. So this is a reprint of his original book from the 60s and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
It has all these charts and everything. This is from 1996. So based on his tables from 1996, and these are men's performances. So recent women's world records based on the 96 tables for men. Faith Kipkeon's 1,500 world record of 349 is worth 911 points. Chebet's recent 5,000 on the road of 1354 is worth 1,000 points, so roughly the same. Chebet's 10,000 at Prefontaine on the track, 2854, 1,140 points. Godet's half marathon of 102.52, according to Dr. Purdy, 1,301 points. And Ruth's 2:09:56 is worth 1409. So the swing there is from Faith's 1,500 at the low end of 911 points to the Ruth's 2:09:56 of 1,409 points. I don't know the percentage there, but it sounds like a 50% difference. Let's fast forward to the 2025 tables for women. The 1,500, 349 is worth 1,295 points. The 5,000 of 1354 worth 1,295 points. The 2854 worth 1,309. The 102.52 worth 1,281. And the 209.56 worth 1,339. A difference of, what is that, 40 points, 45 points versus 500 points in the previous tables. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if Dr. Purdy didn't know what was going on, but he based his on all the data from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Right.
And the current ones, I don't know what they're based on, but I'm guessing it's from more recent history.
Right.
So I don't know if that the more recent tables justify the times.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to in my mind, but I could be crazy.
So I guess the question becomes, we're talking about all these points and arbitrary numbers, but what is too fast? Do you ever see a time that you would say, that's it, no one can physically go that fast? Because I think for the longest...
I don't think you can do that.
So, if tomorrow we see a 1 hour and 55-minute marathon, is that does it also matter where the current world record is and how far you break it? Or where do we draw the lines of that's too fast?
I don't know, but now we're at the point now where we're starting indoor season. We'll probably have 100 college men break 4 minutes in the mile indoors. Right. So in the 50s, there was the one or two, maybe three, but in 54, there's one guy.
Right.
And it was like, him and Hillary climbing Everest were two of the biggest things. That's when Britain was on top of the world and making my car that doesn't run. Right. But anyway, so it's just for a bit of a comparison in the 2025 tables for men's, El Garouge's 1,500, 326 is worth 1,302 points. Kiptum's 2 hours, 35 seconds is worth 1,322. Mm-hmm. I tried to compare 1996 tables, but it only goes down to 203 for the marathon. So I can't do anything there. But it seems to me that the times come, and then World Athletics comes up with tables to make sure everything's the same. Like I should have looked at what Bolt's 100 time is and 200s and stuff like that.
Right.
But I didn't because I'm an idiot. But anyways, it's an interesting discussion. So based on these tables, it seems like the 209 is similar in performance as the 349, 1354, 2854, and the 102.52.
Yeah.
It was probably way out of whack with the previous world record.
Right.
So I know it's crazy to think of. The other thing I think of is a friend of mine, Mark Conover. He was a 14 flat and he was a 28:30 for 10K. So slower on the 5K than the women's world record. Faster on the 10K. I forget what his half marathon is, but his PR in the marathon was 2:12.26.
Right.
So that's 2.5 minutes slower than the current women's world record.
Right.
So that raises a bit of a red flag for me too.
Right.
Because he had the best day of his life and he wasn't a bad runner.
Well, and I think for me, what would raise the biggest red flag of maybe too fast is breaking a world record by 5+, breaking something so much. But then at the same time, you look at the shoes, you look at all these different factors, then.
And I was looking at that, just in terms of, previously in the 96 tables, looking at the difference, and the difference between the 1500 and the marathon is like 9% difference. And I was, the original idea was, okay, well, if super spikes, which is the 1500, the 5000, and 10,000, the 1500 and 10,000 is worth a 2% improvement, and road shoes are worth a 4% improvement, we should see, a 2% improvement over what we normally would see. And we're seeing a 9% improvement. So that comparison didn't work. Anyways, we're going down a rabbit hole that I don't think anyone wants to listen to. But let's finish on a new segment.
Yep.
And previously we had Kevin's
shoe closet.
Yeah. And he came up with this idea of and this is more sustainable.
Okay.
Shirt closet.
Yes.
So what we're planning on doing is bringing out a shirt.
Yep.
And along with the shirt comes a story.
Right.
Because we like stories.
Right.
And Connor's first up.
Yeah. And
he has a shirt.
Yeah.
And I'll let you tell the story and explain the shirt.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we'll have some fun coming in this segment because we got lots of amazing.
We got a lot of stuff sitting in boxes.
Yeah. But, I was going through some stuff and I thought this was a fun one because this was probably my first race win out of college. And this was the Oktoberfest run. And if you see here, it says 2014. This wasn't the race that I won, but this was actually I ran the Oktoberfest in 2017. I showed up late to the race, and I remember they were all out of shirts. Nothing was there. All they had was a bib. Not even a bib. They don't have bibs in that race.
Bibs. Yeah.
So I paid my money, didn't even get a warm-up, went and ran the race. I think I won it in 20 minutes and 40 seconds that day. Had a battle with another runner and just got him on the line. And when it finished, I was going around and I said, I want a shirt. And they said, we don't have any more shirts. And then I saw a little box and I found this one down at the bottom. I said, what's that? They're like, oh, that's from a few years ago. They said, did you win the race? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, you can have it. So this was my first maybe like race prize from a post-collegiate race.
It was Oktoberfest is a race in Los Osos, Baywood, and I've been doing that race forever.
Yeah.
The race director and the artist on the shirt, Ron Roundy, passed away a few years ago.
Yep.
And
is this you? In
no,
one of these?
I'm hesitant to bring. I have one that has a bunch of holes in it that has my picture on it.
Okay.
A painting. You might be able to tell who it is, but
okay.
Ron is a great guy, and he would have this affinity of getting into fights after the race.
Oh, man.
And one guy got in his face while he was driving his carryall away, and they started going at blows, and Ron bit him in his trapezius. So that's your muscle right by your neck. So they were going, and then another time, we were post run. All the people that work, Ron would go and buy us all a Bloody Mary for helping work.
Yeah.
So we're sitting in there, and we're all at the bar, and in the corner is a booth, and Ron ends up getting in a fist fight in the booth with another guy that ran the race.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ron would just get in fights in the race.
Well, that's how the Los Osos Bay would. I mean, it's a very ragtag race. People are finishing. Again, you just kind of go across the line, and most people are making their way over to the bar or whatever. I mean, it's
there's
a fun time.
There's a little
fair,
street fair,
yeah,
little car show and stuff like that. So it's really fun. But anyways,
and I think we also need to just take look at all of these advertisements. This is some NASCAR level advertisements.
Yeah, I think
we need to bring.
We're
this
right
back.
there. Look at Running Warehouse right there.
There's the shout out, Running Warehouse.
Wow, boy. Yeah, that's a long
really
time ago.
Really paying the big dollars
Here you
for
go.
Prime real estate on the shirt.
I think we overdid our welcome here.
Yeah. Is this a record? This might be one of our longest
episodes. It might be one
episodes.
of our records. Now, when I got up this morning and I got up to my computer and a couple cups of coffee, we had nothing other than the shoes.
Oh, we showed
and then
them.
we showed them. Yeah, we came up with, I don't know what happened to me, but I got all kinds of ideas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you enjoy this sort of thing, I can't imagine that you would, but if you do enjoy this sort of thing, what do you have to do?
Well, you definitely got to like.
You got to comment.
And of course, you got to subscribe.
You got to subscribe.
Yeah.
Discuss. Call us idiots on this kind of stuff.
Yep.
Disagree with us on the shoes.
Yep.
You'll be wrong, but you can disagree with us.
Let us know your best ofs down below, and we'll respond to it all and tell you why you're right, why you're wrong, and
all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But anyways, want to thank everyone for listening. And until next time, peace out. Thank you, sir.
Peace out 2024. Hello 2025.
You got it.